Today we're looking at a new feature available on APQS Millennium and Freedom SR quilting machines, available on any model that is a 2008 or newer machine. This option is a wonderful feature if you like to do very detailed types of quilting, such as tiny stippling or background quilting. Normally, with a stitch-regulated machine, that particular kind of quilting can be a little bit difficult as the machine tries to sense your direction as you move left, right, and forward and back. As an example, I'm going to turn on the stitch regulator on this machine. I have moved the handles out of the way so that the camera has a better shot of what I'm doing. I have my stitch length set to around 13 stitches per inch. I've activated the stitch regulator, and I'm going to try to do some very tiny background quilting. As you can see, the machine stops when I stop and then begins again when I start moving. However, that tiny detailed quilting can be a little difficult as the machine tries to sense those very short distances that I'm trying to move left and right. Well, now I'm going to activate the Quilt Glide feature. I'm going to take the camera up just a smidgen so that you can see what that looks like on the front of the machine. It's a very easy to use knob that's accessible very handily right on the front of the machine. When the knob is pointing straight down, that Quilt Glide feature is turned off, but I'm going to turn it on by turning it clockwise. And now you can see that the needle continues to slowly move up and down even though the regulator is on. When I stop moving, that needle's going to slowly cycle. In other words, the machine is using both the manual and the automatic sewing mode together, the stitch regulated mode, to smooth out those tiny curves and changes of direction. It makes this detailed work a lot less stressful, less fatigue on your body, and gives you a lot more control. I'm going to turn the machine off for a moment so that you can hear me talking for just a moment. The knob that I adjusted right here does have a sensitivity factor to it. The farther I rotate it clockwise, the more the machine will take those tiny stitches as I approach starting and stopping again. I've adjusted it about to the midpoint in sensitivity, and let's take another look at how the stitching might change. I'll activate the stitch regulator and bring us back down. I'll stop moving for a moment, but the machine continues to cycle, making those little stitches as the regulated and non-regulated modes work together. If I turn the sensitivity all the way, now you can see a very rapid stitch activated at the same time as I'm moving. Now, there is a time when the Quilt Glide really should be a secondary choice rather than your primary choice. If I'm doing something like a pantograph or changing directions very quickly on a large design, I don't necessarily want the Quilt Glide feature turned on. That's because my stitches will get longer and shorter as I move in and out of the points. I've turned the stitch regulator on, but I've turned the Quilt Glide off. And when I stop up here, that stitch regulator stops also. I'm going to tighten the camera angle a little bit more for us. We'll zoom in just a little bit. Now, give the camera a second to focus and find its way. There we go. With it focused there, you can see the stitch length is fairly consistent, actually right on. I have it set at 13 stitches per inch. But if I have the Quilt Glide activated, if I move very, very quickly in and out of those sharp points as the machine crosses over from regulated to non-regulated mode, right here my stitches got a little bit longer. That's why it's best to use the Quilt Glide feature only when you're trying to do detailed work such as this. That's going to smooth that out for you and make you those little tiny curves very simple and easy to do. Turn the Quilt Glide off when you want to do pantographs or large overall style block designs and so forth. That'll make sure with the APQS stitch regulator in its precision mode you're going to get the same number of stitches at every single start and stop. To review once again, when the Quilt Glide is off, that machine will not sew until I move it. With the Quilt Glide on, listen for the click. Now I'm using both the manual and the regulated mode together. And if I stop to think about where I'm going, the machine will continue to cycle. So I need to make sure that I'm using that only for the tiny, tiny background quilting or detailed work for best results. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to the APQS Quilting channel for more neat tips.